keen and bright, flashing like silver. Follow the wild goose flight, dip, dip, and swing. Dip, dip, and swing her back, flashing like silver. Swift as the wild goose flight, dip, dip, and swing. My paddles keen and bright, my shadows keen and bright, my shadows keen and bright, my shadows keen and bright, touch ship and sails by, 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 touch ship and sails by.
I got the idea. And then another fellow told me what he would do then if I wanted to go out and make a camp out on the lake.
Stan Steenman, who was a staff member, spoke of the possibility of a Presbyterian campsite in Shoal Lake, which was now vacant and could be used. And so McKinnon secured some crates that had been used to crate aircraft. This was the beginning of the war, 42, and he got a hold of these, and with this material, they built cabins on this site, enough to hold the kids that they expected to come.
Do I remember? Yes, I took a taxi from Lanark Street. I was living with my aunts on Lanark Street, and I asked the taxi driver to take me to the GWWD station, and he said, "The what?" So we drove all over St. Boniface trying to find the Greater Winnipeg Water District Railway. And there was a group of excited campers and parents on the platform, and we started off to camp. Ann Steenman was Ann Carroll then, and her nickname was Robin. She introduced herself to the campers as she walked along the car and gave each of us a nickname. And my nickname was Jem, the first three letters of my last name. The Greater Winnipeg Water District Railway took us to Waugh. Then we had Mr. Holstrom, who is a fisherman on Shoal Lake, had a great big barge, and we all got in the barge and all our camping gear, and he took us to the old Presbyterian campsite.
It was a wonderful summer. What made it really great was that was my introduction to Jesus Christ. And the reason I became a Christian was because I was so impressed with the love of God as I saw it demonstrated in the people that were there. And I didn't recognize at first what it was, but when I started listening in Bible studies, I put it all together and realized it was God's love in these people that made them such terrific people, different from people than I'd known before.
Barges, I would like to go with you. I would like to sail the ocean blue. Barges, have you treasure in your hold? Do you fight with pirates brave and bold? Out of my window, looking in the night, I can see the barges flickering light. Starboard shining green and port is glowing red. I can see the barges from my bed.
Boy said that he wanted to show me another place that would be very nice for a camp. So we went over there, and I thought it was just a beautiful place. And I took McKinnon over. I was then rowing, and he thought, oh, this was wonderful, and that's where McKinnon Island came.
Here in Manitoba, the camp located on Shoal Lake, just across the boundary into Ontario, actually, was situated in wilderness territory. And when I went there first, which would be in the fall of '47 or so, and then in the summers of the mid-50s, you saw very little of any kind of power craft. One or two local people, a man who supplied groceries and things around the Shoal Lake area, native people going by, perhaps in a powered canoe, overhead in the sky occasionally airline traffic, but otherwise it was isolated, and you might be way in the far north. That's been a particular mark of camping experience at Manitoba Pioneer. Very special.
Any child. There are so many good things. There's the discipline, having to get up early in the morning, get things started. There are the jobs that everyone has to take turns at. Everyone has to cook breakfast, everyone has to put up tents, take tents down, and the sense of pulling together to do that, the sense of accomplishing something together as a group and feeling part of that group, like there's a oneness there that's special.
I guess I can speak from my point of view. When I first came up to Manitoba Pioneer, I was not experienced in canoeing or camping. And I took my first canoe trip out. I went down to Bag Bay with a group of intermediate boys. And in order for me to prepare for that experience, I had Jay Castle take me out in the boat. I didn't know how to use the compass or the map before that trip. So Jay took me out in a motorboat that afternoon and took me out with the compass, gave me the map, had me take a bearing, and asked me where would I go next, and we just sort of rehearsed it a little bit. And I remember coming back from that experience, learning that I could trust a map, I could trust the compass, and if I would use them correctly, they would get me where I wanted to go.
One of the things that used to delight me was the fact that we now did gourmet cooking on our canoe trips. Instead of pork and beans and pork and beans and pork and beans and mashed up white bread with peanut butter, we were doing elegant food with baking pie and cake and making biscuits and all sorts of interesting combinations. The kids themselves, of course, were shocked because this is the kind of stuff that only their mothers could do. Their mothers were equally shocked when the kids came home and insisted on preparing rice pilaf. Even pronouncing it was a kind of a put down for the parents.
At the time, I was wanting to use films, but the religious films that were around were almost entirely deplorable, both technically and in terms of their approach to presenting the message. And so I was looking desperately for some quality films. So I said, let's make one. And we worked together on that, and that became Wilderness Treasure, which was his first film. Bill Mason, of course, is one of the most distinguished alumni, if you will, of Manitoba Pioneer Camp, becoming, as he did, probably Canada's most distinguished nature filmmaker, winning something like 65 awards internationally for his 18 films that he himself directed. He won awards. He was twice nominated for an Academy Award and the Oscar Awards in Los Angeles. He received twice the equivalent of the Academy Award from the British Society for Film and Film Arts in England.
This wilderness of rivers and lakes, rapids and falls, trees and rocks is the Precambrian shield of Canada. For over 3,000 miles it stretches from the Gulf of the St. Lawrence past the Great Lakes to the edge of the prairies and northward to the barren wastes of the Arctic. Each year, young campers from Inter-Varsity's pioneer camps and ISCF clubs all across Canada set out by horseback, sail, foot, and canoe, and in the wintertime by ski and snowshoe to explore this vast land. This is voyageur country. Radisson, Groseilliers, Thompson, and La Vérendrye were the first to venture through these inland waterways. Through the door they opened has poured unmeasured wealth in furs, timber, minerals, pulp, and water power. These modern young explorers traveling the 200-year-old transcontinental highway of the voyageurs are not after that material wealth. But under wise leadership, their eyes may be opened to other wonders of this world which God has made, and to the Creator himself.
The essential message never changed. That is that it is in this natural world that we get a glimpse of the God of creation, who is subsequently introduced to us at a personal level in Jesus Christ. And that's a very simple faith statement which Bill himself believed, and he simply reflected that in the film. And in a sense, I'd say nothing's changed.
There's a lot of special things about camp. I started coming to camp as a staff person 6 years ago. And so a lot of my stories have to do with sharing things with the kids. Just recently on a canoe trip, we were taking 6 girls on a portage, which means picking up all your canoes and packs and taking them over land to another body of water. And she was standing knee-deep in mud and really excited because she never could do that before, and laughing, and we were all laughing with her. So a lot of my memories have to do with helping kids experience new and different things, and that's what I think of when I think of camp.
I think one of the most significant moments I've ever had at camp is realizing that I could give the same kind of experience that I had when I was a camper to the kids who are here now, whether it's through the program we have or through the activities we do. I think that that's something that's really lacking outside of camp, and that's probably the most important thing we do.
I guess what Pioneer Camp means to me is caring attention. I guess that sums it all up. I was a camper here when I was about 10 and deathly afraid of leeches, would not go anywhere near the water. And so I would sit out during the swimming classes and just watch everybody else and then take the canoeing and all that. But at the end, you have to have your 200s if you're going to get your canoeing degree or, you know, certificate. And so I said, forget it, I won't get my canoeing then. If that's what it takes, no way. And so a couple of the counselors volunteered to get in the canoe with me, take me out to the middle of the lake where they swore there were no leeches, and paddle alongside me while I did my 200s. And they didn't have to do that, but they took time out of their busy schedule to help me. And that's what really sums up Pioneer Camp for me.
It was my second year at camp, and I was a junior counselor. And I was assigned to a cabin of seniors for rest hour. And at that time, we allowed campers to either read or sleep. And most campers in this cabin were reading G.I. Joe comics or whatever, Spider-Man. But one particular camper, who I'll never forget, was reading an appliance brochure. His parents sent him to camp with appliance brochures. And it was quite unusual because he'd go through each appliance brochure and check off the things that he had at home. Washer, dryer, and which features his washer and dryer had. And he'd ask me questions like, Squint, does your VCR have 4 heads or 2? Or he asked one other counselor, Josh, does your washing machine have a spin cycle? And so this memory has always stuck with me about this camper because he was rather unusual.
My favorite, probably fondest memory of camp is probably being a staff kid. I just realized what you get away with, and just the caring of the people around. They always looked after you. They were always there with a smile. And I think the worst memory at camp would have to be a meal. We had so much bologna on the island, and someone ordered the cook to make sweet and sour bologna. It came all back, but at least it was used up, so there you go, my worst memory of camp.
One of the things I observed, even when I was there in '62, before I actually moved into the situation, was that there were a few quite skilled people, but the majority of staff were willing, but not well equipped from a point of view of general camping skills. Such obvious things as swimming and canoeing, knowledge of the wilderness, sensitivity to the environment, and how to interpret the environment in relation to our use of it. And so over the next, well, 15 years, we simply took an increasingly focused approach to how to equip well-meaning young adults so that they themselves were able to not only perform at the skill level, but to model those kinds of skills. And even more important than the skills would be the love of the environment and how those skills make us able to live in that environment, if you like, sort of at peace with it.
Right. Just back out of there.
A lot of these counselors came as a result of being involved in Inter-Varsity, and some of them through NCF, and a lot of them because they had been campers themselves. And particularly since I started the CIT program, I'm growing my own staff, and they keep coming, you know, even though they're now in their 30s or even 40s, they're still coming. Camp gets in your blood, and you just are a part of this wonderful family, this community, and you can't stay away.
Steer, steer for Camp Pioneer. Dip in your paddle. The promotional goals now include just raising the profile of Pioneer. We're no longer a well-known entity in the way that we used to be. Partly it's because there's a lot of competition among religious camps, and they many times have a natural constituency within a denomination or a geographical area, and that's not true of us. So we now try to do television commercials or a much more widespread distribution of brochures.
Pioneer Camp means fun, adventure, and friends. The lake is cool on a hot summer day. Canoe to an island for an overnight campout. The breeze will catch your sail, or just lie back and feel the warmth of the sun. Join your friends for the best summer ever at Pioneer Camp. Call us for information at 943-0717. We'd love to hear from you.
Outdoor education, actually, the start of that, which was in the early 70s, probably was more significant than we thought it was going to be. Its significance was, from a program standpoint, a development of our own staff. Here we were offering programs and our facilities to school groups in areas which they had some experience but limited, and we had a fair amount of experience but not necessarily educational background. And so we developed a lot of things for schools which in the long run I think facilitated the summer programs.
When I first became the general director of the camp, I wondered a lot about what is the niche of Pioneer, and should there be program changes. We need to create for the kids, we need to create a lot of fun. And so I thought of various ways of doing this, introducing new things like windsurfers and so on. But I came to the conclusion that we had to take advantage of our very special situation as an island in Shoal Lake where we were still surrounded by wilderness. And there was just no replacement anywhere in camping for this kind of thing. So it became important to do this better than ever.
I guess it's hard to predict, isn't it? We do change over the years, but I think the Christian aspect of camp will stay as long as it's going, because that really was the foundation for it. And the activities may change. You know, certainly there are far more activities than when we were involved there.
Well, it becomes a part of you, and you certainly enjoy it. I met some of the most wonderful friends I've ever had at Pioneer, and I think other people could say the same thing.
Those were exciting, tremendously profitable years. I have hundreds and hundreds of friends who were involved with me during those years, and I think that if their experience is at least somewhat similar to mine, that they've got some very positive, strong, lasting memories that will sustain them.
That probably is the most significant thing, is to see the development of staff, of campers, as they discover things about themselves, things about God, and grow with that. I know that we used to use a slogan, it's a growing time, and that probably does succinctly describe what camp has meant for many, many people, not just myself.
The rewarding thing of having directed camp all these years is seeing lives that have been changed. It's just great to see God working in people from the time they're 8 years old until they grow up. And even when they're no longer coming to camp and I still see them, it's great to see what He is continuing to do in them. And that's what camp's all about.